Okay, you're on.
Dude, man.
Irish ones. I'm giving out, you're giving out these.
Dude, enough.
Some of it's library, this whole section.
No, this is.
Then it's Irish Heritage Night, so there.
No, that's the novels, but like. Dude. I seriously think that we shouldn't have a meeting for like a month.
Okay, yeah, the mic's on. Okay, everybody, we're going to get started. We have a long night, so I want to welcome you to the town board meeting of March 10th. We're going to start with the town clerk doing roll call.
Councilman Dennis Troy.
Present.
Councilman Tom Divining.
Here.
Councilman Paul Valentine.
Here.
Councilman Jerry Batari.
Here.
Supervisor Teresa Kenny.
Here. Okay, so we're going to do the, I see Mr. Withers. Oh, sorry, Esther. I was going to have you do it, Pat, but Esther, would you lead us in the pledge? She got mad at me. She got mad at me.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. Thank you, Esther. Okay. Okay, so we have a couple of announcements. Thank you. First, I'm just going to touch base real quickly about the coronavirus. I have been on conference calls with the health commissioner up at the county Department of Health, with all the supervisors. The chief's been on it, the ambulance corps. We've all been several calls trying to just kind of keep on top of what's going on in the county. At this point in time, I'm going to give you a telephone. If anyone has any concerns, there's a telephone number. It's a 24-hour hotline at the Department of Health up in New York State. So this is the number that we were told to give people who have concerns or questions. It's 1-888-364-3065. Also, the Rockland County website for the Department of Health has a lot of information, and it updates the numbers and everything about the number of cases and things. So you can also go to the website if you have any questions. As of today, I'm told that the number confirmed in Rockland was 6 cases, but it changes somewhat regularly. So that was around 11 o'clock this afternoon. So anyway, I'll just remind everybody, no shaking hands, no kissing, none of that stuff. No board meetings, right? So we just got, and it kind of plays into the next comment, the St. Patrick's Day Parade. As of today, the parade is still on. Again, we're consulting with the Rockland County Department of Health. We're seeing how it plays out in New York City, but we will certainly consult with the AOH, and we'll give plenty of notice. But as we sit here today, the St. Patrick's Day Parade is a go. So again, that's on March 22nd at 1:30. Just another announcement, on March 24th, we're going to have a discussion about the merger of responsibilities for our Architectural and Community Appearance Board of Review with the Historic Areas Board of Review. So right now, we have 2 boards. One does Tapan and Palisades in the historic area, and we have one that deals just generally with aesthetics. So kind of taking a page out of what Clarkstown did, we looked at how much money we can save, streamline some of the process, and so we want to have a discussion and see what everyone else thinks about it before we move forward. So that's going to be in the next meeting on March 24th, and anybody who wants to join us can certainly join us. We have a paper shredding event coming up on May 2nd. It's here at town, and you can bring some canned food for people to people, and that's hosted by our town clerk. And then we just have the military banner, tribute banner, which has been going and ongoing. We started it last year. It's been a great success. So they're still available, as far as we know. We still have some space left, so if you're interested, it's $150, and then if you want to renew it every year after that, it's $50. So that's still ongoing. And now we're going to move into some presentations, and we have quite a few of them, so bear with us. We're going to start with the proclamation for National Women's History Month, and we're honoring Alice Haggins. Help me out with this, Alice. What's your middle name? Hagginson Gerard. So I have a couple of words first, and then we'll let you get your certificate, and we'll let you say a few words. You can. So Alice has been a Palisades resident since 1941. She attended Smith College and later graduated from the University of New Mexico with a degree in anthropology. While in her senior year, she married her husband, Robert Gerard. After a year in graduate school at McGill University in Montreal, they returned to Palisades where they built their house and raised 3 children. Robert was then working at Lamont Doherty, where he has worked for 37 years. Alice later worked for a master's degree in education and taught 3rd grade for 3 years at the Tappan Elementary School. Later, she taught 6th grade at the South Orangetown Middle School for a year. In 1969, she and 3 other teachers started an alternative private school, the Rockland Project School, which closed in 1990. Alice's mother, Alice Hugginson, had over years become the local historian for the Palisades community, and after young Alice retired, Mother Alice persuaded Alice to become involved in local history. Alice was always interested in history. Her grandfather was a historian, and she began to publish a series of local history books. After many years, she is still involved with the publishing of the Palisades newsletter 10964. Her latest publication, the Nicholas Gesner Diary, is the transcription of a 1,600-page 19th century diary written by a Palisades resident between 1829 and 1850 and is published in 4 volumes. It is a continuation of Alice's mother's work on transcribing. The diaries tell about day-to-day living, the weather, prayer meetings, planting crops, and purchasing goods. It is an impressive undertaking by Alice Gerard. Alice is a Palisades historian, and she is currently working with other people digitizing the Palisades historic collection. So, without further ado, Alice.
I want to thank you for this award, and I want to say that I will always be glad I grew up in a community, an area that is so rich in history and has preserved so many of the houses from the past. Palisades and Tappan have been good stewards of their older houses and the overall look of the area because people here care about the past. I can have dinner at the 76 house and imagine Major Andre imprisoned there. I can walk through the Nicholas Gesner house and in Palisades and imagine the arguments I know he had with his difficult son. But it's not only that I'm fascinated by history and enjoy research, it's also that I think history is important. Life is moving faster and faster, but it's richer when we pay homage to the past as well as looking forward to the future. As George Santayana said, those who cannot remember the past are condemned to repeat it. In the difficult times ahead, knowledge of the lives of our forebears and the difficult choices they made may give us perspective on the choices we have to make in the future.
Present Alice with this certificate. We'll just take a quick look at it. So
Oh.
it says, yep. So whereas American women of every race, class, and ethnic background have made historic contributions to the growth and strength of our nation in countless recorded and unrecorded ways, whereas American women have played and continue to play critical economic, cultural, and social role in every sphere of life of the nation by constituting a significant portion of the labor force working inside and outside of the home, whereas American women have played a unique role throughout history by providing the majority of the volunteer labor force of this nation, whereas American women were particularly important in the establishment of early charitable, philanthropic, and cultural institutions, whereas American women of every race, class, and ethnic background served as early leaders in the forefront of every major progressive social change movement, whereas American women have served our country courageously in military and armed forces, whereas American women have, who wrote this? Somebody said it. Whereas American women have been leaders not only in securing their own rights of suffrage and equal opportunity, but also in the abolitionist movement, the emancipation movement, the industrial labor movement, the civil rights movement, and other movements, especially the peace movement, which create a more fair and just society for all. And whereas we remain committed to achieving equality for women and to ensuring their rights, freedoms, economic strength, and opportunities for advancement of the workforce, as we remember women of past and present who have influenced, thrived, and succeeded in all areas of personal endeavor, we proudly join to recognize the many who have made historic contributions to our town, our county, our state, and our nation in countless recorded and unrecorded ways. Now therefore be it resolved by the members of the Council of the Town of Orangetown, assembled March 2020 is designated as Women's History Month in the Town of Orangetown.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Okay. Okay, now we have some proclamations for National Catholic Sisters Week, and I promise I won't read them all. So, we have Sister Mary Flood of the Dominican Sisters of Blauvelt, Sister Michaela Conley of the Dominican Sisters of Blauvelt, Sister Mary Murray of the Dominican Sisters of Spark Hill, and Sister Eileen Gannon of the Dominican Sisters of Spark Hill. Okay, go ahead. You gonna go too?
I'm proud to be up here with Supervisor Kenny in terms of doing these awards. I have a personal interest in this for two reasons. The Dominican Sisters of Blauvelt educated three of my four children at St. Margaret's, and they were just phenomenal. And Sister Ann Conley, who passed away I think 2 years ago, a year and a half ago, Sister Michaela Conley, who's here, all right? They were just wonderful to my family, to my kids, and had great influence on their upbringing. Sister Mary Flood is really also Dr. Mary Flood. She was down in Columbia Presbyterian. My wife was very sick down there. They called in the doctor for infectious diseases. And it's really timely when you think of what's going on right now, right? And you hear the doctor's coming in who's the expert in infectious diseases, and who walks in the door is Sister Mary Flood. And it's funny because I remembered her because she grew up right on the same block where I went to high school, St. Nicholas of Tolentine. I met my wife in St. Nicholas of Tolentine. And it just brought great comfort to myself. My wife at the time was out of it, you know, going through what she was going through. But to have Dr. Flood or Dr. Sister, I don't know how that works, was
Superwoman. Just
absolutely phenomenal. On the other hand, the sisters in Spark Hill Dominican Sisters, I was there when I was about 6, 7 years old. My my mother's cousin, was going into the novitiate, and many years, this is Sister Margaret Ryan, and many years later, my mother was trying to come down from the Adirondacks and trying to get into Thorpe, and fortunately, she did get into Thorpe, and she was there for about 17 years. And again, the Dominican sisters were wonderful to my family. So I thank all the Dominican sisters. Thank you very much.
Okay, so we have Sister Michaela Connolly, if you'll step up here. Yeah, I want to take pictures. You want to take pictures? Want to say something? It's up to you. Oh.
We're just so grateful to be honored and have been part of Orangetown for over 140 years, I think both congregations. So we have a stake in the neighborhood. Thank you.
I want to say thank you. It's a pleasure and proud to be a citizen and also to be working with so many people here in this area. So thank you for who you are and what you give. And thanks to the board for your time as well. Thank you.
Oh.
Dennis, shut the door.
Dennis, shut the door behind us. Because the light is there.
Yeah. He's still not better looking.
think they're all in the hallway, okay. Next, we have some proclamations for the Irish Cultural Heritage Month 2020 honoring. We have Fergal Hayes, Hibernian of the Year. Are they coming in? Frank McDonough, Rockland County Grand Marshal. Lillian Murphy, aide to the Grand Marshal in New York City. Deirdre Smith Withers, Parade Commander. And then we have Edmund Hartnett, who unfortunately could not be here, but we do have a proclamation for him. So. You wanna read it? Okay. I was told I have to read this. Okay, so here we go. Whereas individuals of Irish descent have played an invaluable role in the history of the U.S., New York State, and the town of Orangetown, making contributions as writers, as business owners, artists, soldiers, musicians, athletes, educators, actors, politicians, doctors, scientists, lawyers, and every other profession. And whereas Irish Americans were among the early settlers of Orangetown, bringing their skills as carpenters and farmers, and many immigrants from Ireland continue to arrive in Orangetown and make their homes in every hamlet in the town. And whereas Irish Americans have contributed to the economic growth of Orangetown and continue to improve its economy by owning restaurants, construction firms, shops, law firms, and other businesses, serving as teachers, clergy, business owners, police officers, and in other capacities. And whereas Irish American organizations such as the Gaelic Athletic Association, the Irish Cultural Society, and the Ancient Order of Hibernians have greatly contributed to the cultural life in Orangetown and Rockland. And whereas Irish Americans have influenced and served the town of Orangetown government as town supervisors, town board members, town employees, land use board members, and as committee volunteers. And whereas the Rockland County Fesh has since 2013 been held in the town of Orangetown, attracting thousands of visitors from throughout the metro area. And whereas the Rockland County St. Patrick's Day Parade, the second largest such parade in New York State, has been held in Provo since 1974 to honor and celebrate Irish heritage and culture. Now, therefore, be resolved, the town board declares March 2020 to be Irish Cultural Heritage Month in the town of Orangetown.
Isn't it 1964?
I would point out one other thing. The Pearl River Parade, again, as part of the proclamation, is the second largest in New York State. And it's always been argued whether the second largest in the country or not. Everybody argues about that part. But it's a great parade, it's a great family day, and it doesn't happen by accident. It happens through the leadership of volunteers who work on this parade year in and year out. Part of them are right here in front of you. Some of the others are in the audience, all right? And it's a thing, they make us a better community, and I thank them. So let me give you certificates, and thank you. Fergal Hayes, Hibernian of the Year, it's a great honor. Thank you. Oh, here we go. Frank McDonough is the Grand Marshal. He'll be leading the parade. But one of the other interesting things, besides the fact he's a retired detective out of New York City and a great volunteer, is he ended up getting one of our great veterans, Frank Duffy, to participate in the parade. Frank Duffy never wanted acknowledgement for any of his past achievements. Frank Duffy was injured at Iwo Jima. He was a Marine. He's now 94 years old, 96 years old. But Frank ended up talking him into going in his car, which was a convertible, and the first year he did it, the people went wild over him being a Marine, Iwo Jima veteran. Each year after that, he jumped in the car with Frank. The one year that he had difficulty, Cardinal Dolan came and bounced him out of Frank's car into another car, and Frank McDonough said, I don't care if it's the Pope next year, he's not taking my spot in the car again. So it was a thing where there was somebody who really made him a different person, I believe, by what he did. So Frank, lead us. We have the ladies AOH, one of the great leaders is Lillian Murphy, and she's going to be hopefully in the Tuesday parade in New York City. We'll see. Deirdre Smith Withers married to former legislator Pat Withers, all right, but also retired from the Suffolk Police Department, will be our parade commander.
He's not here.
Accepted for Eddie Hartnett. Eddie Hartnett was retired New York City chief, member of AOH Division 3, also was police commissioner of Yonkers, and then he was with Rosnan Securities. Now he has his own security firm, but a very, very sharp guy. And I've played golf with him, and he's far better than me. So thank you very much.
Want to acknowledge John?
All right. It's like I always used to leave my mother out of things. Not that you're my mother, John, but John McGowan here was just on the other end of the hall as one of the attorneys that works with our youth court for the last 3 years. But John McGowan is also a county legislator representing Orangetown, and he's also president of the AOH. So, John McGowan. Sorry, John.
Anybody want pictures? No?
Good.
No shaking hands, sorry.
You gonna get a picture of the group? Stay up there, Billy.
Jeez, for the nuns, what you're talking. Okay.
Stand up, guys. Thanks, Kate. Thank you, guys.
Thank you, guys. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Okay. Let them go. Jeff, nobody wants to hear you get your award. Okay, so the next award is presented to Jeffrey Benchik. He's the Director of Finance here. It's a Certificate of Achievement for Excellence in Financial Reporting by the Government Finance Officers Association for fiscal year ended December 31, 2018. And correct me if I'm wrong, you are what, the only?
We are the only municipality or school district that will get this award in the entire county.
Okay. You will see, too, we have from 2012, it just keeps continuing. So, I don't know, Jeff, you want to say anything? You just want to take your? No. Okay.
Thank you, Jeff. Gravity.
Keep up the good work.
Gravity.
Just real quickly, I just wanted to thank my finance team, who I could not do this without, Janice Ganley, Natalie Shutter, and Stephanie Tassello. Thank you.
Okay, and next we're going to have the discussion about the unification of the Palisades, Tappan, and Orangeburg Library districts into a single district with 3 branches. I have Vicky's name here, but do we want to let people talk about this now, or public? Let me see. Oh, they have it on the list. Okay. Okay.
Hi.
Hi.
Ready?
When you're ready.
Okay. Good evening, everyone. Thanks, Esther. I am Vicki Caramonte, Board of Trustees, Tappan Library. I'm here with many supporters this evening to ask for the board to pass a home rule resolution in support of our effort to unify the Orangeburg, Tappan, and Palisades libraries by forming one taxing district and allowing the public to vote on our budgets. I know there has been some cause for concern that The Pattern for Progress study that was previously presented doesn't really tell the whole story. We would argue that the effort here is not only about the money, the potential money, the savings to taxpayers, but it really is about giving the voters, the taxpayers, the patrons of the libraries, the opportunity to have a say in how their library is managed. That happens in just about every other library in the county except for Stony Point. And we feel that it is an important part of the public process for our patrons and our taxpayers to be able to have that direct say. If you live in any other part of the county, that's generally the opportunity. So I want to just ask those people who are here, there are many people here tonight who are in support of this. If everybody who is in support of the library unification would either raise their hand or stand up, that would be very helpful. So there's a good group here, and in addition to that, we know how hard it is to get people to come out to board meetings and such. We have another 220 some odd petitions from community members in favor of this endeavor. I know that there were some questions, so we're certainly happy to answer those, but before we do that, I did want to just kind of reiterate a little bit about some thoughts that I had after we had the opportunity to meet with Teresa a couple weeks ago. And I wrote an email after that to the people that had joined me, so I just want to kind of lay out a couple of those points. So while the dollar amount of cost savings versus taxpayer increase is an important one, it's only one aspect of why unification is important. We of course know that costs will always increase, but our budgets would be bound by a levy cap the same as the town board budget. Voters, patrons, property owners in these library districts do not currently have a say in how their library should be managed because they don't get a vote on how the money they pay is allocated. 5 people at the town board level get to make that decision on their behalf. We really think it's important to give voters the opportunity to have a say in how their library is managed. And to those who say that people will not come out and vote because special districts often have low voter turnout, then that's incumbent on the voter, right? If the voter is that concerned about the way the library is spending its money, we hope that people will be involved. In our libraries, we have people coming in and out of the doors all day, and that is a direct connection to the users of the library, to the taxpayers. We will be able to have those conversations. The staff of the libraries will be able to have those conversations about why it's important for voters to come out and vote in support of or even in opposition to. It's your choice. However, the important part, again, being the voter. Then having the opportunity to understand by being involved in the library, whether directly on the Board of Trustees or possibly in a capacity in a Friends of the Library group, to have a clearer understanding and a deeper understanding of what we do and why we do. As a library trustee, I have a fiduciary responsibility to uphold the mission of the library and to not pursue financial stability, which is another thing that this would afford the libraries, to me, in my opinion, is a failure of my duty. In 2019, more people used the library than attended a movie. The libraries are very, very, very often used by all age groups, from very young children all the way on up. So when you say, birth through 99 or beyond, we have a lot of people who really do use the library. I know that there are a couple of people who wanted to join me in speaking and making the case for this to you. So I think first off, I'd like to invite Sister Virginia up. Are you ready, Sister Virginia?
Vicki, while she's coming up, can I ask a question?
Sure, please.
And I've probably asked you this before, but if the town board passes this resolution, then it has to go, just so everyone understands, it goes to New York State, and they have to...
Correct. There's a
Okay.
much longer process beyond the town board signing off. So the next step would be, so the home rule resolution would be forwarded to the state assembly person and the state senator. They would have to carry the resolution to the full legislature. The full legislature would have to vote, and then the governor would sign off. I'll let Sister Virginia speak, and then we'll finish the rest of
Okay.
that conversation. Go ahead, Sister. Notch the wire.
Good evening. My name is Sister Virginia Chambalero, and I am the Vice President of the Board of Trustees at the Orangeburg Library. We are here tonight because our boards came together to find a way to ensure long-term financial planning and to make certain the libraries are open for generations to come. Excuse me. Speaking from personal experience, the outreach the libraries provide ensures a lifeline for those who cannot always get to the library. Our librarian visits our convent, Thorpe Village, and Dowling Gardens on a regular basis. This provides free access to information in the form of books, DVDs, Blu-rays, audiobooks, and magazines to those in our community who would not otherwise be able to easily obtain these materials. The library is a center of community for thousands of citizens in our area, and redistricting is a way to preserve that service. Our libraries serve people of every age, income level, location, ethnicity, or physical ability by providing a full range of informational resources needed to live, work, learn, and govern. I would hate to see that go away. Thank you. Also, I have to tell you that I have 125 sisters over at the Dominican convent in Sparkill that will kill me tomorrow if we don't get a positive response.
Thank you.
Okay, so to finish the process, should the governor sign off on the legislation, then what happens is that the redistricting, the new district boundaries, the budget, and the new board of trustees would be voted on by the general public, those people who live in those areas. So, and I oftentimes neglect, because it's the names of the libraries that I keep referring to, but it's also Spark Hill, the hamlet of Spark Hill. Those residents would be become part of this new library district. So they're technically an underserved hamlet at the moment, and so this would allow them to be served.
Okay. Okay. So they would, I guess there would be an election.
There would be an election of an entirely new board of trustees, representative of the entire new district, and the budget that we would put forward would have to be voted on by the public as well. So in the end, the public has the final say. This is as much of it as it's a recommendation and a wish of ours, because we do believe it will bring stability to the libraries and allow us to better serve the community and provide services that the community wants. Ultimately, it's up to the voters, and that's what we really believe should be the case.
Anybody? Questions?
Well, I know Governor Cuomo, when he wants unification, he really wants consolidation. So what is going to be consolidated?
We have the opportunity to consolidate our auditors. We have the opportunity to consolidate a lot of the back office services. Eventually, through attrition, we would look at staffing levels, and where there are staffing levels that can be reduced, we will. Again, that's with the permission of the voters, because if the voters want us to remain open for a Sunday and reducing staffing wouldn't allow for that to happen, that's an opportunity for the public to say, we really believe that you should be spending money on staff. There are fees that we pay to the Ramapo Catskill Library System, a lot of money actually every year. That would be reallocated or reduced, because there are 3 libraries and it's all based on the number of card holders, and there's a whole formula that they use. That's where we really expect to save a lot of money. We have 3 audits that we spend a lot of money on. We would have 1 audit and 1 auditor.
How much would that save?
Well, I think we all spend, I think it's $30,000 or so for the 3 audits. So you're looking at maybe spending 12 for the 1 library, because it's not the 10 that you spend on 1 library, because it's a little bit bigger, that kind of thing. So you're saving $12,000, $15,000.
When would the election be, and where would it be?
The election would have to be at a library.
It'd be 1 library out of the 3?
It would have to be 1 library out of the 3. And the vote would be designated in the authorizing legislation that the governor would sign off on. And I know there was some question about whether the vote could be held on another election day, a designated election day, but it's my understanding that each taxing district has to have its own election day. And so until there's legislation at the state level to change that, we're bound by what currently exists.
But
that's-
wouldn't that would eat into your savings, though, 3 different elections.
One election.
But you said they had different election days for each.
No. We are not allowed to piggyback onto another election day, so we couldn't hold our election on the same day as the national election, or on the school board election, or on the, I don't know, the fire district election. We have to have our own election day, or
No,
voting
but
day.
that, if you consolidate and unify, that's gonna, if you have it on the same day as a different election, that will save money. Having different election days will eat into those savings.
We're not allowed. It's
But
my
I'm just
understanding that
saying,
state.
you're saying we're gonna save 12 grand, I'm saying you're not gonna save anything.
No, we don't believe that we won't save anything. Just at the
I
outset, the
don't- I
pattern
don't-
for progress.
If you have 3 elections,
No, one election.
well, you have the one election, you're not gonna save anything.
I think we will. I don't think elections will cost us $10,000.
The only thing I'd like to,
Oh, then you don't know elections.
the one thing I'd like to make clear to everybody watching on TV and here is that we're not planning on closing the library. And when you come up and you talk about, we want to save these things, there's no plan to change what you currently have. Your funding from the town, isn't going to change, so, it's, when you get up and you talk, it sounds like either we do this, or these people are going to lose their services, or they're going to, there's no plans on any of that.
Because our budgets are contingent upon the town's decision. If a town board decides, and it has in the past, to flat fund us or to reduce us.
Or to
that's
use your
out of-
ca- right, to
that's
let
out of
you use
our
your
control,
capital.
That's out of our control, and it's out of the voters' control.
But at the same time, the libraries decided on their own to spend millions and millions and millions and millions and millions of dollars
We
without
spend
coming
that
to the
now.
town board to do improvements or build new buildings. So the reason we did that, Vicky.
Go ahead, I'm listening.
I don't want Dennis to lose his mind but there's 3 libraries that did huge renovations at millions and millions of dollars, and no one voted on that, except the 5 trustees of the library. So to me, it's kind of like, you're being disingenuous saying that the town board made us spend fund balance when you guys decided to do all these renovations, and you didn't even come to the town board and say, and then you want us to increase your funding so you can prepay your mortgage payments. Come on, give me a
So,
break.
I didn't say anything about spending down fund balance this evening. I didn't say a word about it. I know that it's been a discussion item in the past, because the libraries were asked to spend down their fund balance. I understand that. But to your point about the Board of Trustees making a decision about their buildings, if the public has the chance to vote, if we become a special district, then voters, taxpayers get to make that decision, don't they?
Yeah, but you made those decisions on the building with, on 5 people without coming to the board, and then you're still coming to the town board and asking for a 10% increase because you want to prepay your mortgage.
We wanted to provide a library, in Tapan's case, that served the community. To do that, we needed to expand, which is what we did. And I think we have been incredibly responsible with the way that we have
I guess there's a
mortgaged,
disagreement on that.
and the fact that we have been able to spend down the mortgage so that or prepay the mortgage, so that we are not incurring high interest every year. The goal is to make sure that we do not incur additional interest, so that we're not paying that additional money, which is why we spend it down every year, or pay it down every year.
Isn't it true that then all of the employees of the new special district will have to be CSEA employees?
They
and
will have to be civil
Not
service.
Civil service?
Civil service.
Civil service.
So they'll have to pay into New York State retirement. So I don't see how there's a savings.
They have to pass tests, too.
And it will affect some of the part-time employees there, if I'm correct.
Go ahead, Dennis.
You brought up fund balance, all right?
Tom brought up fund
It's one
balance.
of my favorite topics. It's a great topic. For 20 years, the 4 libraries were hooked, for more than 20 years, they were hooked together. Whatever one library wanted, whichever the highest one was, and it was normally Orangeburg, that was what the increase was every year. When I put a stop to it, it was 19 out of 20 years, 10% increases for the 4 libraries. One year after the other. If Orangetown, we did 10% a year in tax increases, we'd be run out of here in a rail, maybe rightfully so. All right? So it was 19 out of 20 years. I put a stop to it, I don't know what year it was, 2007 or 8.
Somewhere around there, yep.
And one of my good friends in the Journal News ended up doing an editorial where I was a book burner, because I was trying to put a stop to those types of increases. One of my fellow town board members said, whatever the libraries want, that's what the library should get. I think it's ironic that you're saying this gives the voters a say, and it will give them a say. One of the things I tried to do, I guess, again, it would be 2 years after I put a stop to it, and the increases started being around 6% and then 2%. I tried to get it split where each of the libraries could ask for their own amount of money. Orangeburg, and it's only the same person, and I know that person's no longer with you. That person went up to Albany, or went to the assembly person here, and stopped a home rule resolution that would have accomplished that. Finally, the year after that, they allowed it to go through, where you could have different amounts for each of the libraries, which I thought was finally a start in terms of holding each library accountable, right? It's a thing I still don't agree with Tapan, where Tapan did a large increase with no votes, and then they're prepaying their mortgages Tom talked about, and you're saying, oh, you're saving the interest. The interest rates right now are the lowest you could possibly have. Now is the one time it makes sense to borrow, and I understand that. But to prepay and take it out of fund balance, I don't get that at all. The fund balances, and I talked about this a lot, the fund balances were taxpayers' money, and they were just sitting out there. The fund balance in the town, in our town, is somewhere around, I guess, I don't know if it's 20%, some is encumbered, some not encumbered, all right? The fund balances on some of the libraries at the time, when I was going through all this, were, one case, 200%, other cases around 100%. It was ludicrous, all right? And maybe your boards are far better now than they were back then. But to me, you follow the money. You're saying now that people can have a say. I still think it just strikes me as if we didn't give enough in the last 2 or 3 budgets, all right, to each of the libraries, and that's why you want to split out. I also am very skeptical about the patterns for progress study. Very skeptical, as a matter of fact. So I would say, as of this point, I'm going to vote against this, but we'll see. Vicki, you're very persuasive. Maybe you could change my mind. I don't know.
So fund balance was an issue that was brought up by the town board many years ago, and I believe that the libraries...
I still have scars from that. I do.
And I believe the libraries took the direction from the town board very seriously, and we paid down a good portion of our, or used a good portion of our fund balance as requested. In the meantime, we were getting cuts to our budget, or flat funded, or less than the 2% cost of living, or GPS, or the CPI, or whatever the index is. The annual budget that we would put forward to the public as a unified district would be subject to that levy cap. Plain and simple. So if the town residents and taxpayers decided that they didn't agree, then we would be subject to that no vote. And I think that it is a shame that the residents of Pittsburgh, Tappan, and Palisades do not get to be given the opportunity to have that direct say the way so many other residents of Rockland do.
One of the other issues in terms of library or fire department elections is the low turnout. All right? And you have a low turnout, it also helps whatever the going agenda is at that time. You're going to get your people out. All right? To say that it's going to be the general population coming out, that's always a question.
Well, there's that adage about you can only bring the horse to the water. As my civic duty, I vote, right?
I agree
So
with you.
if I put the information out there as a potential trustee of this new board of directors, board of trustees, and people don't come out to vote because they're okay with it or because they just don't want to come out to vote, I don't really know how to drag them to the polls. If I did, we'd probably have a lot more people coming to a lot more elections.
Well, that's why I asked, when is it, when is it going to be? Because
We would, in the,
it's hard enough to get people
Absolutely.
on November 7th, November 5th, whatever it is, to come out and vote.
well, we
right?
certainly wouldn't do it in the
When people
summer.
know when it's going to happen. It's another thing when it's, May 15th or
Right.
May 12th or whatever.
You have to remember that we have robust mailing lists, robust websites, robust social media. There are people who come into the libraries on a daily basis. They know about us. That's the way we communicate with our patrons and with taxpayers. The other fire districts, they're in a little bit of a different situation because they're not necessarily having that robust method of communication. We have had these mailing lists and this social media presence and this website for years and years and years, and we get people to engage with us on those websites, on the website and through that social media. We've already started in this process holding community meetings where we've had 30, 35, 45 people come out to learn more about what's going on. That shows you that there's an interest. There are about 25, 30 people here this evening who are here because they support our libraries and they support this effort. There's another 225 letters here from people who couldn't be here tonight. I think that's a really amazing turnout for an issue that we have presented several times already. And really what we're asking for is for you to allow the public to have its say. That's it. If they vote it down, then they vote it down, and that's where we are. I would hope that they wouldn't, but that would be the end result. I hope that convinced you a little bit.
Vicki, how many people are in the 3 combined libraries? How many people? District. Like
How
combined
many
people?
residents?
Yes.
That's a good question. I don't remember off the top of my head. 15,000 homeowners? 15,000 families? No, in the 4 hamlets. Okay, thank you. So in the 4 hamlets, which I guess that's including Spark Hill.
So I'm just going to, we met, and I kind of said what I think I, go ahead.
I'm sorry, Teresa.
No, go ahead.
This also would then give the libraries the total right to bond new projects directly to the public.
Correct, by public vote.
No, right, by your library vote.
Correct. So again, the public would have a say in whether improvements should be made or not made.
I just, I wish there was one thing that would point to me that there was some kind of consolidation or some kind of savings, and I don't see any. And all I see is that if it becomes where they all have to become union and you're starting to pay retirement funds and everything else, I don't see how you can possibly be saving money. And what happens is when the people get their tax bill, you think they'd read line by line and say, oh, $300 went to the library, $200 went to the fire department. No, they call up and say, you said we stayed under the 2% cap, but my property taxes went up 10%. Who's telling the truth here? You're lying to us, and that's not true. We're telling the truth because the town tax went up that much. Everything else, all these little incremental things, and a lot of times it's the school budgets go up quite a bit, and it comes down on us as the town board, or the county taxes go up, a tremendous amount, and it
Insurance
pushes
costs
us up.
and costs for services and salaries and healthcare benefits. And one of the things that
So the
this will
bottom line
bring-
is the taxpayer, right? I mean, because I hear you about the library, the people who use them, and I love the libraries. I think, our library, my local library, Blauvelt, is a great library, and serves our community very well, and serves my grandkids and the seniors in our area very, very well, and it's a great asset to the community. I'm worried that this is going to end up costing people a lot more money in taxes, and they're just so burdened, and I don't see the consolidation or the savings or the advantage of doing it, other than giving the libraries the right to increase the budgets, and I hate to say it, it's hard to get people out. You're not going to get the seniors who can't afford a big increase to come to a poll on an off day on a Tuesday in May on, from 3 o'clock in the afternoon to 6 o'clock at night. They're not going to come out and make their voices heard. They don't do it in the fire districts.
I don't think we would restrict the voting hours to a very narrow window, number one, because that would defeat the purpose of having as many people as possible come out and vote. I am a firm believer in of the people, by the people, for the people.
It's
And
hard
that's
enough
what
to get
this
people to come
is
out on a
ultimately
national
about.
election, Vicki, you know this. You know
absolutely
the
is.
percentage is very low,
And I would
right?
argue that is their civic duty, and they are remiss by not coming out to vote. But if I'm giving them the chance and they choose not to take it, I don't really know what to say about that. Quite honestly, I would love for more people to come out and vote. Everyone who's out there listening, get out and vote, no matter what the election. There you go, there's my little spiel on that. But at the same time, the town board not allowing the public to have a say the way other library districts do, to me is a shame.
Okay.
And to those of us who are here tonight, and to those who signed this petition.
I'm just gonna, we had a meeting, I read that pattern for progress very closely, and he was doing backflips to find savings. I mean, you didn't have to read it to figure that out.
When we first put this proposal together, the staff of the library, the directors and the boards, looked at the line-by-line budgets for the 3 libraries to do a comparison. And just off the top of our heads, we were able to come up with savings. The Pattern for Progress report shows that in the first year, those are the potential savings. We're looking at this from a long view. Over the course of time, there will be additional savings that will be gained, because there will have to be, because taxpayers do not like to see their taxes increase. If we make a reasonable case to the public that somebody needs to be hired to be able to provide children's services, or somebody needs to be able to come in and run a program, a cooking class on any number of things, look at the circulation to deal with making sure that the books that people want to read, the audio books, the e-books that are available, that takes manpower. But we would hope that because one person would be able to do that for 3 libraries, or 1.5 FTEs would be able to do that for 3 libraries, instead of 3 people doing that for 3 libraries, there's inherently a savings.
Okay, so what I'm gonna suggest, so that we can move on to the rest of the agenda.
I just got a question for Jeff. Now, the cost of the library, where will that show up? Will there be a separate bill coming from the library, or is it still going to show up on our
No.
bill?
Our bill.
It'll still show up on town tax bill. It'll be a combined library district, and whoever is in that district will pay into it.
Okay.
Like Blauvelt
But-
Library is not part of it, so they already have a separate tax line for their constituents who pay into it. So that's how it'll show up. It'll be on our tax bill, yes.
Okay.
Vicki, one more question, which I don't know if you know the answer to or not, but there's approximately 15,000 patrons or families, I'm not sure how it was, people, I guess, in those 4 districts where these library districts will be. How many currently are patronizing the libraries, the 3 libraries?
We could give you the circulation numbers again.
Well, how many library
How many cards
cards?
do we have? It's in our annual report to you, but we can get you those numbers again. I don't know them off the top of my head.
Okay, thank you.
So I would suggest you get whatever information that,
Does anyone, well, Vicki, can we let other people that are
do you wanna
supporting
speak
you?
now?
Yes?
Yeah.
Is there anyone else who's here in support of the libraries that would
Or
like to
against.
come up?
Or who wants to speak?
Who wants to speak?
Well, can I ask for a little bit of privilege and get at least the supporters to come up? And then, I know that there are
Whoever wants
people,
to
I know that there are people who are here who are not in favor of this. And I don't want to, obviously, I wouldn't want them to
Well-
not have that opportunity.
Well,
Do you want to
any-
just have them all come up and, I don't know how you did the
Anyone who
public
wants to
session.
speak on this will get to speak on this tonight,
But I'm
so,
gonna put the
you
timer
know.
on.
but
I would love
let's
for
have
you
people
to.
raise
Thank
their
you.
hands.
I'll sit down and wait, John.
I know, I'm doing.
I first visited the Palisades Library in 1941, when I was 10 years old. And it was in a musty old room, not a lot of books, actually. They all had brown paper covers, but it was still a lifesaver for me to be able to read. 2 libraries, buildings later, it's an incredibly different library. That first one, my mother and one of her friends moved the whole library in 2 days in 2 station wagons from one building to another. What Maria has done in the Palisades Library and the staff, and the wonderful staff, is just incredible. There are meetings, there are not only books, of course, but audio visuals. There are teenagers there. We have a historic committee. They do yoga, they do meditation. I can't list all the things they do. If I had to move, I would never move to a town that didn't have a good library, because I think, especially for people my age, it's just a lifesaver. And I believe that that people who live in the community the Palisades Library, because I'm a historian, I know it has moved from building to building and strength to strength because the people in the community cared enough to donate time and money and political power to make those changes. And so I really urge you to I think Vicki did a wonderful job of talking about this. I really urge you to let the voters in our area decide this question. Thank you.
Thank you.
That's that lady in the back. You, yeah.
You. That's okay.
Am I taking over? I'm sorry.
That's fine, that's fine. I'm still playing with the timer over here, so.
I'm sorry I may be a dissenter here, but I am concerned that recently the 3 libraries have been putting out a sheet and encouraging their patrons to sign the sheet in support. However, it is not showing the other side, because I've been to all of the library meetings, and I would have a very good guess that the 280 support sheets that Becky mentioned, that the large majority of those 280 were not at the meetings to hear the dissenting views. And there are genuine dissenting views. So I feel that having 280 sheets supporting this is not accurate, because what those people who were encouraged to sign, they're looking at the itemized points that Hudson Valley, the study agency, did. And of course, those are all in favor, and only in favor, and not even necessarily accurate, because they're implying that certain things would happen with this, which in fact are already available or not. Also, civil service is going to definitely put a monkey wrench into things, because they're talking about added flexibility, whereas in fact you would have less flexibility with your employees, for the simple reason that they would be confined to grade level assignments. And it certainly would increase costs, because you talk about attrition as a savings, but in fact, I think everybody knows that with civil service, we've all known someone who is no longer optimally functional, and yet they continue on and on forever due to civil service. This is not the case otherwise, and I think the library should be able to pick people by their specific skill sets rather than some grade level definition of what, their position should acquire. And I just don't see where the savings really are here. And that's my take.
Thank you.
Thank
Can we just get your name for the record?
Rosie Dixon.
Rosie Dixon.
Thank you.
She sent a letter here.
I don't want to overstep.
That's what you just show you. Nobody knows anything. That's who that is.
Hi, Anne-Marie Yule Blauvelt. Just a couple of comments and some things that maybe we could think about in a different frame. When we talk about libraries, I know that we're talking about all the wonderful services, but the other thing that libraries do for a community is that it actually offers equity and access for all. because there are some people in our community.
Sorry,
Oh,
don't mind.
that's
Just keep going.
There are some people in our community who don't have access to many things that we might have in our home. But what the libraries do is that they level the playing field for many people. So I want you to keep that in mind when you're thinking about libraries. And also, too, I know that we talked a little bit about the election process itself, that you're worried that people will not come out and vote for, or be able to come out and vote for this type of an election. So I think that we have to really separate a regular election with a special district elections when we're talking about libraries and fire districts. In a regular election, we really get extremely politicized with it, and we're talking about a different type of elected election. Whereas when you go to a special district, like a fire district or a library, you're really voting on a community service. So, though I appreciate what you were saying about that, because as we know that overall our elections are not really well attended, I think the highest election rate we ever had was 30%, and that is kind of dismal. But with the right promotion and with people being informed, I think that though it's a consideration, I guess I really just wanted to point out that we're really voting for a community service, which I think is a little bit different. And then just one question that I think we should have on the top of our minds, and I think it might have been addressed already. I don't know, I know with other consolidation that the state does offer incentives when you do that. It's mostly kind of like a one-shot deal, where if you're going to consolidate, you can access this money. I don't know if it's available for something like this, but it just might be something to look into as we move forward. It might help incentivize with the costs for the elections themselves. Thanks.
Thank you. You can, yeah, you're fine, you're good. I don't know anybody's names. Yeah, if you just would say your name when you come up and where your town, where you're from, so for the record, so we have it. Thank you.
Hi, my name's Amelia Kalin. I live in Tapan. I'm also a library director at another library in Rockland County, so I am familiar with budgeting and cost savings. And in terms of voter turnout at elections, which we have annually, it is abysmal, but that is the way it is. We do everything in terms of sending out an information flyer to every resident who lives there, and we do advertise it in the library itself and on our website, et cetera. But I think it is very important for the public to be able to vote on whether or not they want services or not from their library. I've lived in Tapan for 30 years. I just looked at my tax records for the last couple of years, and they've been pretty stagnant. And I know that the libraries have not received increases in like 10 years. Like, it's been very small. And I don't know if in the 30 years I've lived here that I've ever had the opportunity to vote on the town's budget. So where does the public get to vote on that? We get to vote for our representatives, but we don't get to vote directly on that. And so I don't really understand what the town has vested in this. Like, why does it matter to the town if the libraries want to consolidate and ask the public for their vote? Can you answer that? Like, what is the town?
We're not going to get into back and forth with you if you don't mind.
Okay.
You can just make your statements.
All right.
Thank you.
I'm done, thank you.
Okay. Either one of you is fine. Oh, wait, that woman spoke already. I can't get this thing. Because the instructions right here. It was. Man, I don't know why it's not working. Yeah.
Hi, I'm Raleigh Tozer, the Vice President of the Tapan Library. And I was with you all through the years of the various budgets and the returning funds and getting more funds and borrowing money. And I'd like to go through that a little bit because I think it's important for you to see it from our perspective. And I do have to agree with you that when you say 19 years out of 20, there was a 10% increase. That really didn't make a lot of sense. But that's gone and done. What we need to think about now is what's the best path forward for the libraries and for the town board. Because where I start in this is that I don't think this process of the libraries coming to the town board for funding works. It doesn't work for us, the libraries, and I don't think it really works for you. You guys have a lot of other issues on your plate at the time of your budgets and setting up what priorities you have and where you're going to spend money and where you're going to cut money. So I don't think you really don't know how the libraries are managed. I think you have a sense that it's kind of mysterious. We're off there doing our own thing. And I think that's true. But I do think that the people who are operating the libraries are very sincere and dedicated and devoting a lot of time. I know I do. And I think the end result has been good. I think it's been good for all the 4 libraries that we're kind of talking about here. I kind of want to get to some of the things that, the issues. First about the report. I think that report was very carefully done. It was done honestly. I think if you have questions about it, I think we'd be happy to answer the questions. But I don't think it's fair to say, well, I don't think the numbers are right, and I don't think what you're saying is going to happen is going to happen. That's not a good way to discuss and make a decision about how what the report says and what it doesn't say, and whether the numbers are accurate. Because I mean, if people have questions about particular numbers, I think we can talk about those. But I know the process that was devoted to that paper was long and many hours and really carefully done, and I don't think those are made-up numbers. I think those are real numbers. One of the things that probably biases the results, it biases it against us. It was a decision not to fire any existing employees at the get-go because that didn't seem fair to the employees. And the people who go to the libraries like the faces they see, and we thought they should be able to continue to see those faces. But over time, the turnover in the libraries is something like 5%, and that will give us opportunities to reduce the overall size of the staff for the 3 libraries that are unified, and it will give you savings in addition to what's in the report. The report doesn't give you a projection about what happens in 5 years. It's talking about what happens in the first get-go. I know you guys got a lot to do, and I want to get to a couple of things.
We have to stick to the time, and we have a whole agenda to still get to. If you have anything you want to submit in writing or emails, we're happy to look at it, but we have a whole agenda to get to.
Then I would like to take the opportunity. I'll send you
Please,
some
and I'll
of
make sure the whole board gets
my
it. Yeah.
comments. Okay, thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you. Is there anyone who hasn't spoken that wants to speak first before we start?
On the library.
Okay. Yeah, okay, so you spoke already. Are you going to, can you be concise?
I'm not going to take long.
Okay, thank you.
I just wanted to say 2 of the gentlemen happened to mention the Orangeburg Library and the fact that we cost so much money. We are not able to get a 10-year lease from these people so that we can apply for state grants so that we won't be asking for money. We have paid for repairs on our building by ourselves. We had to put in a new ramp for people, handicapped people, to come in. We didn't get any money from anyone. We paid for it ourselves. All the improvements that have been made on the Orangeburg Library have been made by the library. So what we're asking for is to be able to save money by getting a lease, by getting into this redistricting with the other libraries, and ultimately to be saving money. Thank you.
Thank you. What? Oh, yeah, I guess you can line up if would be.
Hello, I'm Maria Gagliardi. I'm the director at the Palisades Library, and I also live in Tapan. Continuing on that line of thought about the grants, the Palisades Library a few years ago, we did do a renovation, and it cost about $400,000. It didn't cost millions. And of that, we were able to get about $200,000 in state grant money. So it actually cost the local taxpayers only $200,000. And it's because we own the building so that we are eligible for that kind of grant. And as far as civil service, you know, lots of libraries in Rockland County, including the Pearl River Library, which everyone here agrees does a wonderful job. Their civil service, and it hasn't hampered their ability to provide outstanding service. From the Pattern for Progress study, I misspoke from the audience. There's 12,000 individuals living in this service area. And of those, 7,122 have library cards. And number of books and things and DVDs that have circulated, 129,000. 118,000 visits to the library. So that you can refer back to the study for those kinds of statistics as well.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, Susan, you can.
And I was also first on public comment, but I didn't realize you were going to be.
Yeah,
asking
we kind of
some-
went a little off.
Okay,
We figured
so
it was,
you can
okay.
ask me on phone.
Right, right. But I think she could talk about this. but
Susan
yeah.
Nemesti, Palisades, and I'm just here in support of the consolidation because with the, we don't know what's coming. There's a questionable unknown economic circumstances looming in the future. I think it's important that not just the library, but maybe the town, the county, schools, whatever, start consolidating and cutting back costs wherever possible. And I think that allowing the taxpayers to decide where and how the money is going to be spent might actually get them to actually come out and vote. Because when it's their taxes, you know, being spent, and they can actually have the actual say of what's going to be happening to their libraries, then they might actually come out and take that time, whatever day it happens to be. So that might be an incentive for getting people to come out. So that's just my comment.
Okay, thank you. Carol?
Hi, I'm Carol Baxter. I'm from Palisades. Thank you for this opportunity to talk, and I want to congratulate Alice Gerard in public. She's a gem to us who are neighbors and for the whole community. Congratulations, Alice. I have to say, this whole issue is really complicated, and I've been studying it. I've been asking questions. I've been going to meetings. I get the feeling all of a sudden that we're losing our libraries, and I don't know how that's happening. It feels like there's this pressure now that, I love my library. I go to all the libraries. I think they all seem to be in good shape. I know that the town has a charge, and the charge is to make sure that taxes stay low, and I'm sure you have lots of departments that you have to divvy out money to, and if it's a matter of the fact that they haven't been getting money in the past, maybe there's something moving forward that there can be more a percentage that can be put into to support them. But I'm not sure. I just feel like this is happening backwards. I mean, I keep hearing that they want let the voters vote on this, but we're not going to have a chance to even vote on this until it goes back up from the state. Then it comes back. Then we can vote on whether or not we want this or not. I don't know why we weren't able to vote when this first came up, whether or not each community wants it. The three different libraries are very different from each other with different we just are learning who owns the Blauvelt Library. For a while, we didn't, Orangeburg. We didn't even know where the Orangeburg Library, who owned the library. One of my questions is there in the three libraries, are they discussing what their 5-year plans are? I hear that the Orangeburg Library would like to have ownership of their library, but then to put money into it. So does that mean then our Palisades people have to pay for Orangeburg's situation? Also, my question is, what happens to the line item if the consolidation goes through? What happens to the town's line item? Does it disappear? Like, I can't remember how much money is on that line item.
Well,
Or does that money get divided back up into other departments? So will we have the same tax from the town?
It just doesn't count to the cap for the town.
But I mean, the extra, same thing with this, I just learned on Sunday about the school district. We won't be getting the school district's money either. So what is the school district doing with that extra $275,000? Nobody seems to know. So are they going to put it back into their own projects? Because they're not going to divide it back. So then we'll have the town keeping their tax the same, the school district, and then we're going to have a new tax on top of it. There are other things. I'm just concerned about the logistics of the taxes. The libraries, I support the libraries. I think they're great. I think we're very lucky to have them. But I'm just, as a taxpayer, questioning and sorting this out. It's very confusing to me.
You have some great questions. As far as the tax cap, it actually helps the town if we agree to do this, because it's no longer under our bill. So it makes us easier to get under the cap, which makes it easier for us, and we have more money. And therefore, we should be, the whole board should say, yeah, do it. But we're elected by the taxpayers. And it makes it so that even though it's not under the tax cap, the money that people are paying for municipal services might go up. So it's better for the town board, but it may not be better for the town taxpayers. And that's something we have to look at. We have to look at the bottom line.
We're already the second highest county in the country in
Right.
taxes.
And just so
In the
you know,
country.
and you can correct me if I'm wrong, I think Palisades has, I don't think they've asked for an increase, but whatever they've asked for over the last, I think since I've been on the board, the Palisades Library has asked, I think, for zero and got what they wanted. So their funding has been maintained by the town at the level they requested. Not all the libraries have that. I think Palisades is true.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh, so
Okay.
this is the first year, okay, yes.
Okay, anybody else want to speak on the, Eileen?
All righty. Good evening, everybody. I don't know if anybody first has gotten this letter from the Blauvelt Library.
Yes.
So you all have
Yes,
it, and
the
I
board,
think it
yes.
outlines really a lot of the concerns. It raises a civil service issue, what have you. Anyway, I've been attending a lot of the meetings also, and I am really very concerned about this home rule legislation, and hopefully it will not go any further. Obviously, 72% of a library's budget is for salary, health benefits, worker comp. The average director salary is $96,000 a year, plus benefits. Our library talks about costs, but however, they have increased the hours of operation by 1 hour, I believe, every day. If this consolidation takes place, the new board of directors of these three libraries can override the 2% tax cap. If they wish to bond for any kind of major improvements to, I don't think Tapan would do it anymore unless they're planning to do cooking classes. I would assume they would need a kitchen, because we just went through a kitchen renovation in Palisades. So how you do cooking classes without hands-on is unbelievable. But it's my understanding that this consolidation will require the staff to be civil service employees. And as somebody who was once a civil service employee, this move would definitely not guarantee the same staff that we have currently at Palisades, which I'm very, very pleased with. The handouts at the very beginning of this project were available to the public, never listed the above points about the salary, 72% of the budget being for salaries, or the fact that they could override the 2% tax cap. Palisades is the smallest of the three libraries, and in all likelihood would eventually either pay more or be absolved into one of the other libraries. Presently, I pay close to $400 in library taxes, and I know that I have friends who pay $1,000 a year in library taxes. About 80% of the people who live in my community, Iroquois, Horntook, do not use the library. I know for a fact. I go there very seldom, not as much as I'd like to, because I could be a lending library with the books I have at my house. I think in fact, if this goes through, that the impact will fall on the town board eventually because the tax increase is going to be there, and I don't care how they promote it tonight. We will be paying more for the libraries. In fact, one of the handouts was handed out by the Palisades Library at one of their meetings. The weaknesses that the Palisades building has is listed here. But one of the threats that they say is the competition from other libraries and organizations, digital age streaming. Google is the new reference library. Amazon is convenient and immediate. And also the threat is the 2% tax cap that is presently on the libraries. They definitely will be civil service employees. And I ask you tonight to either table this or vote on it. If you're not ready to vote on it, table it, because this is going to definitely
It's not on the
have an
agenda, so
impact
you're-
on,
it's not on the agenda. We
on
just did a
residents.
presentation.
The libraries, the way they are now, are fine. There's an agenda out there, and the agenda is to build a fiefdom.
Lauren?
Hi, I'm Lauren Plotkin, Palisades. First of all, I want you to know I read my tax bill, all the lines, so I know what I'm paying for the library, and I'm happy to pay it. And I agree with Alice. I think the Palisades Library is great. I think that all of the wonderful things that Alice loves about it have been incorporated in the library by the present group of trustees who are doing it and in the past, without consolidation and without joining into a three-library district. I can see why the other libraries, Orangeburg, which has building issues, and Tapan, which has $77,000 a year in debt service, would want to have the Palisades Library as part of this because it doesn't have any debt, and the building is all built out, and I think it has pretty good support. We are 7% of the population, and I think we do 15%, almost twice the percentage, in terms of usage of the Palisades Library, and I think it's more on a pro rata basis than any of the other libraries are used. The problem with the fact that we are 7% of the population, and this is in their report, is that we're going to get swamped. The Tapan Library, the Tapan Library is 55%. The Orangeburg Library has the difference, and between the two of them, they can do anything they want and subject the Palisades Library to supporting what they need for their libraries. And I don't want to pay for that. I'm paying a lot of money, and I don't want to pay for the other libraries. I'm happy to pay for the Palisades Library. I hear conflicting things. I hear that no one is going to lose their job. Then I hear that on consolidation, we're going to cut back on some of the employment. So it's hard for me to understand that, how that works. I also think, and I've gone through the report in some detail, and I see all of the consolidations, and I don't know why we need a three-library district to implement the virtues of consolidation. I think they're doing it now to a great extent, and I think that they can continue that without having the district and subjecting the Palisades taxpayers to the needs of the Orangetown Library or the Tapan Library. That's all I have to say.
Thank you. Anybody who hasn't spoke about the libraries? Good Lord.
Yes, good evening. My name is Charlene Palmer, and I'm a Palisade resident and a Palisade Library patron. And I would like to say that I am opposed to the districting for many of the reasons that have been brought up earlier this evening. And I should also like to address the study that was made by the Pattern for Progress and its findings versus a meeting that was held with the chair of the New York Library Association Civil Service Task Force, who, at the time of that meeting, was very candid and said that a consolidation right off the bat would represent a 20% increase based upon higher administrative costs, based upon the fact that people will be turned over to civil service employment, and several other factors. I am happy to have the library. In fact, I am grateful to have the library. But like the gentleman before me, I don't want to pay for other libraries in addition to my own. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, anybody on the libraries? Okay, Rodney.
Hi, my name is Rodney Pykett. I'm a Sparkville resident. Been a resident for over 23 years, and I'm also the board president for the Orangeburg Library. I've heard a lot about the Orangeburg Library and some of the things that have gone on in the past, and as Mr. Troy has acknowledged, we're far from that, and we're no longer, And as Mr. Troy has said, the composition of our Board of Trustees has changed dramatically. Those people aren't there anymore. But one thing, as I listened to Vicki, that wasn't made clear to the audience is that and now I'm learning that this home rule resolution is not even on the agenda, but by passing a home rule resolution, you haven't really made it a foregone conclusion that we all consolidate. I think, and please, Vicki, correct me if I'm wrong, it then goes to a state legislator who will then introduce to the legislature. If it passes there, it then goes to the governor. He could very well veto it. If it passes the governor, it comes back to the town, and there's a referendum, and the taxpayers get to decide if we even come into existence. And I think that's how it goes. So the taxpayers will decide ultimately as to whether or not we have this redistricting, unification, consolidation. But I was pleased to hear this evening that it wasn't on the agenda, because I think there's some things we need to kind of go over and get all our facts together and know what we're talking about, and represent some true savings. Okay. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Can I ask you one question, Rob?
Yes, sir.
Now, comes back for the referendum, is it cumulative, or if Palisades says they don't want it, does that nullify?
I think it's just an at-large vote. Cumulative? Okay.
Cumulative. Okay.
All right. Thank you, sir.
Okay, last call for the libraries. Okay, we're not open. Okay, we have to go on and do our, thank you. It's not on the agenda, so there's no vote tonight. It was really just so that we could have questions. Vicki, if you could send us everything. I would also say if you could send us what language you're looking for,
We can do that. It's a basic, we approve home rule resolution. I just want to publicly clarify some comments that were made about civil service and this 20% number that was allegedly said by the person who came and spoke about civil service. He did say 20%, and I can read you the email that he sent us today to kind of clarify that, but he was talking off the cuff that if, certain circumstances were to arise. So it was without any clear knowledge or clear study of what the eventual cost savings could be in terms of, or the cost impact of civil service could be. In terms of this information that 72% of our budgets are personnel services, well, of course they are. Any organization is going to have a majority of its budget be personnel services. It's the same for the town. It's the same for nonprofits. It's the same for businesses. People cost money. If you want to provide a service, you need to have good people. And in order to do that, you need to pay them. You have to remember that these people also live in Rockland. It costs a little bit of money to live here, so to pay somebody $94,000 isn't necessarily going to pay all of their bills. There are some other comments that were made about how there's this potential for Tappan and Orangeburg to kind of take over things. That, as far as I know, is not anybody's intent here. I would hope that the people who want to be involved in moving this forward or having the conversation about the potential for a new library and the services it would provide would come to meetings instead of saying that they hear things and that they've come to maybe 1 or 2 meetings. Come to our board meetings every month. We meet every month, all 3 of us. Come and get involved and learn more about what we're doing and why we're doing it. There are probably some other things that I should probably talk about, but I know that this has been a long evening so far, and I know you
Yeah,
have a
and
really
you
long
can
agenda.
certainly email all of us with
We will do
anything
that,
you
and I will
want to
ask that
add.
it be added to the next town board agenda, the actual resolution.
Okay.
All right, thank you.
Thank
Thank
you,
you all for your
everyone.
time.
5 minutes.
Okay, we're going to take a 5-minute break real quick, just to...
Thank you, I appreciate it.
Okay. We have a public hearing to amend the town code relating to pollutant limitations for mercury. Mike, you. Well, this, at the public hearing, okay. Oh, yeah, we can skip that. We don't need to, don't you have a workshopping? You don't workshopping? No? Okay. Okay. So we have approved an application for an adopt-a spot, but this is by the CVS in Pearl River. Donnelly Landscaping. Number 11, we had some corrections on the Substance Abuse Committee. We took, I guess somebody changed. We have Brandon Myers and Lara Benz are being added. What's that? Yeah, I know, and actually, she's been coming too. I don't know, why she was on there, okay. We have some certificate of sewer registrations. We have an approval and a DEC consent order modification, which, do you want Mike to speak on this?
Yeah, I would like to.
Mike, you want to join us? It's on the DEC consent order modification. What am I going to do to?
You want me just to explain what's going on?
Yeah,
Or you have
just- yeah.
specific questions?
No, I
So
think-
basically, the consent order is that we've been removing the inflow and infiltration from the system down in Nyack, and we're at a point where the DEC wants to start to roll us off the order on consent. So they have proposed to give us some milestones to meet over the next 3 years that are going to allow us to come off that order on consent, and that's pretty much what this modification of the consent order is.
So it's a good thing.
It's a good thing.
Okay. Okay, that's all I need, so.
Okay.
Anybody else? Okay. Okay, next we have the resignation of Elena Walker. She's a parking enforcement aide. Then, this is the first for me, but we're surplusing 29 winter coats from the highway department. Then we have an agreement that we worked on with Jim. This is basically to move monies over and listing the roads that will be treated with the, in this program, so. Okay, we have approved Cornell local roads classes for Michael Donahue and Brian DeBonis at a cost of $300. And the next one, we have the Relief Conference at a big charge of $35 for Anthony LaRandry. Then we have for Parks and Rec, we have to award, I guess, a bid for resurfacing of the basketball courts to the lowest bidder. And then we have another also to heating and air conditioning service. I don't know, does anyone want to speak to Eric about this, or everybody's good? Good, okay. We have the approved lend assistance to the St. Dominic's 5K Nun Run, which I did last year and I'll be doing again, so feel free to join me. No, I do not dress up. The next two are basically, they were provisional, they're being appointed permanent. We have Mary Farr from the Town Attorney's Office and Hugh Davies from the Assessor's Office. No change in salary. The next one's reclassifying Justin Favor. She's the chemist in the Department of Environmental Management and Engineering. She did a PO 27, and they had a labor management meeting, and this is what was resolved. Next one, you have summer hours for the Office of Building, Zoning, Planning, and Enforcement. And then we have some receive and file documents at the clerk's office. And then we have the audit, and okay, so we have to go back and, do you want to do the public hearing first? We'll do the public comment. I don't think there's much here for public comment, so. Okay, so can I get a motion to open for the public comment?
Second.
Okay, moved. So do I have a second?
Yes.
Okay, Dennis Troy, second. All in favor? Aye. Okay, so we have anybody, we have looks like a lot of the people already spoke. Is there anyone who wants to speak in the public session that has not spoken?
Well, they can speak.
Larry Bill.
Yeah. That wasn't really a public hearing, but whatever.
Yeah.
I don't want to speak about libraries again, I'll kill myself. Okay. Okay, you good.
Susan.
Whatever. Yeah, she left.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. My name is Carolyn Hill. Thank you so much for your time, and I'm going to be very, very brief. I'd like to share a safety concern and quality of life issue for some residents of Blauvelt. I know it sounds intense and heavy. I'm speaking on behalf of about 4 other families who couldn't be here, and those were the ones that I was able to reach before I got here. So residents on the north end of Western Highway have an increasing concern year after year that our safety is in danger and our quality of life is compromised due to the constant commuters speeding through our neighborhood. I do understand that there is a traffic advisory board meeting. I tried to find that on the calendar. I didn't see it listed. After a call that I made, I did understand that it was every Tuesday morning at first Tuesday of every month at 10:30 and open to the public. To take off work to come to that public portion of that meeting was just not feasible for me. And quite honestly, this is an issue that has been going on that is near and dear to our hearts as residents for quite some time. And I would like for you to know how very serious it is becoming. So just bear with me as I share a few personal experiences just from living in my neighborhood. I enjoy taking walks, or used to. It's not that enjoyable anymore. Most of the time, first I'll back up and say on this section of Western Highway, there are no sidewalks, there are no shoulders, and there are blind curves. There is a 30-mile-an-hour speed limit, and very rarely does anyone go the speed limit. So most of the time, rather than going for a walk, I do put my dogs in the car and drive them somewhere else to take them for a walk. When I have taken walks on my street in my neighborhood, I have been yelled at to get off the road. That's by a passing car. One of my neighbors walking his dog has been yelled at to get the F off the road. So there's cursing and yelling going on by commuters. I get honked at when I slow down just to turn into my driveway. I've stood at my kitchen window and watched my son get on a school bus, only to have a car in back of the school bus revving up, pressing on the gas and the brakes, trying to get this thing to move, while my son is getting on a school bus. I can't even tell you the anger that I felt. I wanted to fly out of my front door and wrap around the car. It was just horrible. As I was walking one afternoon on the small shoulder, and this is the last example, on the small shoulder of my road, a car was coming toward me, no longer in the lane for the car, but this person moved over and was heading right to me as I was walking on the left side of the road, and then swerved really quickly to get out of my way. So apparently was trying to scare me, frighten me, which it did. Last thing that I will say, it's my firm observation that the enforcement of the 30-mile-an-hour speed limit has been neglected for so long that commuters now feel entitled to break the law and speed down our street, putting pedestrians in danger. And if anything or anyone impedes that for them, they feel a need to lash out, get angry, yell, curse, and mess with pedestrians on the road. I would just ask, you're our new supervisor, I have a lot of hope that after 9 years of us living in this home and dealing with this, that maybe there could be some change and just the speed limit that is posted to please be enforced. And I thank you for your time. Yep.
The cross streets, is it to the Clarkstown border, and how far south?
Yep.
I mean, the sidewalks, I believe, end somewhere around Sylvanus or.
Yes, technically it would be where sidewalks end because that's where a lot of the curves happen. I live a little further north, so I would say easily from the cut over to 303. Lieber, yes, Lieber, and on around that curve, and yes, heading into Clarkstown.
Does it help when they have the turtle signs out? Because I know they enforce it for that time of the year.
Well, actually, the residents are out there with the signs, but I can get
It
this.
does, I will say that it does, that time of year does help because there are so many residents and pedestrians on the road. And
they have a speed check sign they normally put out there.
A lot of people do follow that, and they are respectful of that, and I'm grateful for that. But outside of turtle time, there are times when I would like to walk my dogs.
Absolutely.
And I would like for my child to, he's graduated now from, but would like to feel safe on my own street and not get yelled at. I mean, that's when I think this elevated to a point where I feel that I really had to say something on behalf of my neighbors and myself. It's like people just feel entitled to do this now, and they yell at us. It's crazy.
One last question, a time of day? Is it all day? Is it?
Doesn't matter.
Doesn't matter the time of
Does
day?
not matter.
Okay, we can get to the police department for you, and we can get them to the traffic advisory board.
Yeah, I was just
I
going to say,
don't
this
know-
is Allison over here. If you wanted to run over and give her your contact information, she handles the traffic advisory board. So
Okay,
she'll make sure.
thank you.
Between,
I really appreciate it very much.
thank you.
Dawn's got it.
Okay.
Hi, thanks for your time. My name is Larry Vale from Tappan. I'm here tonight, and I realize there's going to be an extended discussion later, but I just want to get a few comments in about the Habor proposed merging with the Akabor boards that was announced tonight. I am a member of the board of the Tappan Town Historical Society. Carol Laval, the president, couldn't be here tonight, so I don't come to give kind of a definition of what the board discussed on this. I think she wants to do that in a pre-meeting with you guys, or send in some written information, and especially because it's late, I won't talk long. But I think I can summarize very easily the concern that the board had when this proposition became known to us. Now, I will say that we don't know much about it, so one of the things I'd like to do before the discussion time is get some information on that. 2 hours ago, I thought maybe I would ask you some questions, but I'm not going to tonight.
Thank
you. So, maybe we can, just contact you, Supervisor Kenny, and see if we can get some pre-information so we can digest it and understand more, rather than just having this be a total introduction to the topic. But just briefly, I would say that we do have, from what we know now, we have big concerns about this, because I think everybody would agree that the hamlets in Orangetown are our strength. We believe that the historical districts supply a very unique strength to two of the hamlets. They're all different, but the historical districts are very important. And we also believe that the Habor is a board that is different than some of the other boards, because they have a specialization and an expertise and a particular dedication to this historical district, which I don't see now that the proposal would provide. But I'm going to be there to learn, but that's the reason we have a lot of issues with this. So thank you, and we look forward to
Thank you.
talking with you more. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, anybody else? Okay, move to close. Mr. Troy, do I have a second? Jay Batari, second. All in favor? Aye. Okay, so should we do the public hearing, being we're an hour late? Okay. What's that? We should have done it earlier. I didn't even realize I saw it. Okay, so I guess we need a motion to open the public hearing.
Moved.
Okay, so Jerry and then Tom. Okay, all in favor? Okay, so I guess we have to, somebody wants to speak on it? Anybody here to speak on the public hearing? Do we want Mike to come up and explain? Mike, would you come up and at least explain what we're? What's it? No, I don't know. Oh, wait, Rob's got a little thing for me here.
So we're looking right now to revise the mercury limit to make it coincide with what we have been doing already with the industrial users since 2013. This limit has actually been in place with all the industrial users for all the permits that we've been doing. And that's based upon a permit that was issued back in 2013 by the DEC. They lowered our effluent limits, so we had to lower what we were allowed to take into the plant. And so that's basically just to put everything in line with what's already been being done, just so that it's actually matching what's in the town code, matches what we're doing actually with inside the town.
Sounds good.
Okay?
Okay, am I supposed to get the town clerk for? It's too late now? Well, you can do it now. Do we have any?
Anyone want to speak on this?
We did, nobody said. Do we have to get in the record about the affidavit of publication or any of that stuff? Affidavit of publication, yeah, you. Okay. We're very official, Rosanna and I. Okay, so we have a motion to close? Public hearing, right. Okay. Dennis, we got a second? Second. Okay, all in favor? Aye. Okay. Now what are we doing? Mocha for, no, we're to 8 already, okay. Okay, make a motion for lead agency and determination of seeker?
I'll make that motion.
Okay.
I'll second
you
Dennis.
second it? All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, now we have to adopt the local law. Can I get a motion?
Dennis,
Dennis, second?
second.
Tom, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, that was easy. Okay. Number 10, approve the Adopt-A-Spot Committee for the landscape at corner of Middletown Road and Central Avenue, Donnelly Landscaping. Can I get a motion? Jerry Vitari, second. Paul Valentine, all in favor?
Aye.
Appoint Lara Benz and Detective Brandon Myers to the Orangetown Substance Abuse Committee. Can I get a motion for a one-year term? Motion? Dennis Troy, second. Paul Valentine, all in favor?
Aye.
Approval of 2020 certificate of sewer registration. Can I get a motion?
Moved.
Tom, just second, you make a second. Jerry Vitari, second, all in favor?
Aye.
Yep, in the butt. Okay, approval of the New York State DEC consent order modification. Can I get a motion? Dennis Troy, second.
Second.
Tom Tiffany, all in favor?
Aye.
You're playing a game of some description, okay. Accepting the resignation of Elena Walker, parking enforcement aide. Can I get a motion?
Moved.
Tom Tiffany, second. Jerry Vitari, all in favor? Aye. Approves surplus highway department winter coats, 29 winter coats. Can I get a motion?
Moved.
Tom Tiffany, a second. Dennis Troy, all in favor?
What do they do with their winter coats?
I don't, know. I've never seen this before.
Why don't they donate them to our thing over here?
Yeah?
Because
Okay.
they're town property, they have to be declared surplus before you can do anything else. Otherwise, you're gonna be asking what you do with the coats.
You have any of my size?
Gift of public funds, right, Jimmy?
Okay.
So what do you do with them after we declare them surplus?
We'll put them up for auction, unless.
Put them up
there's-
for auction?
Unless, yeah,
People bid on them?
I don't know.
They don't.
Whatever
They're
you
getting punchy, I'm telling you.
I'm just wondering, it's just,
Yeah.
I've never seen.
I know, it is like,
Actually,
oh,
you have the
Oh,
board
boy.
has the option to donate them to
If no one bids on it.
somebody that, if nobody bids on
If nobody bids on them, we'll donate it to the drug.
okay. Number 16, approving the agreement for the expenditure of highway monies in accordance with the resolution. Can I get a motion? Jerry Vitari, second. Dennis Troy, all in favor?
Aye.
Jimmy, these streets, what are they, you're not totally rebuilding them?
No. No, actually, this is part of our pavement preservation program. So it's our 10-year program where we try to do between 13 miles a year of surface treatment, which is just a thin layer. And then we're looking at 3 miles of probably repaving. Some of our main roads have been hammered pretty bad the last few years. So that would be taking off 2 inches of asphalt and putting 2 inches back on. So that's what this covers. It's already in our budget. We have a bond and also our CHIPS funding used for this.
I just wanted to clarify it for the sake of
Yeah.
the odd town, that they get something accurate.
This is the same program we do every year.
Yeah, no, I know, I just wanted.
Yeah, the 13 miles would be a surface treatment with quarter-inch stone. Yeah. Okay.
Okay, next we have approving Michael Donahue and Brian DeBonis to attend the highway Cornell Local Roads classes on April 30th. Can I get a motion? Okay, Jerry moved.
Second.
Tom Divini, second. All in favor?
Aye.
Approve Anthony Lamariandri to go to the Relief Conference on March 27th. Motion? Dennis Troy, second.
I'll second.
Paul Valentine, all in favor?
Aye.
Parks and Rec, award a bid for Sports Tech Construction Corp. for the resurfacing of basketball courts, the lowest bidder in the amount of $131,500.
This is it, yeah.
Can I get a motion? What's it?
As long as it goes on top of the other one, we're up closer to the.
Jerry made a motion, Dennis seconded, all in favor?
Aye.
Award the bid to Hauser Brothers for the heating and air conditioning service. Again, the lowest qualified bidder in the amount of $13,348. Can I get a motion?
Moved.
Tom Divany, second. Paul Valentine, all in favor?
Aye.
Approve lend assistance to the 2020 St. Dominic's Convent 5K Nun Run Walk for May 9th, 8:30 to 11:30. Can I get a motion? Dennis Troy, I'll second it. All in favor?
Aye.
Appoint Mary Farrar, Secretary Assistant Permanent, with no change in salary. Can I get a motion?
Yeah.
Jerry Vitari, can I get a second?
I'll second.
Paul Valentine, all in favor?
Aye.
Appoint Hugh Davies, Real Property Appraiser, again, permanent with no change in salary. Can I get a motion? Dennis Troy, second.
Second.
Tom Divany, all in favor?
Aye.
Reclassified Justin Favor as a chemist in the Department of Environmental Management and Engineering at a salary of $99,680, effective March 11, 2020. Can I get a motion? Jerry Vitari, second. Paul Valentine, all in favor?
Aye.
Approve the summer hours for the Office of Building, Zoning, Planning, Administration, and Enforcement from April 13th to October 16th, 2020. Can I get a motion?
Moved.
Tom Divany, second. Dennis Troy, all in favor?
Aye.
Accept and receive and file documents in the town clerk's office. We have the agreement with Jewel Assets, the town board minutes, agreement with the fire company, and 2 pilot agreements. Is that it?
Moved.
Tom Divany, second.
Yep.
Jerry Vitari, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, tonight's audit consists of 3 warrants for $1.5 million. The first warrant had 50 vouchers for $65,000. Items of interest, applied golf, $10,000 for employee reimbursement. And the second warrant had 58 vouchers for $1 million. Items of interest, number 5, CSEA Employee Benefit Fund, $31,000 for dental benefits. Number 6, FDM Preferred Insurance, $32,000 for Blavout Fire Workers Comp. Number 7, New York Civil Service, $749,000 for healthcare. The third warrant had 150 vouchers for $472,000. Items of interest, number 8 and 9, the applied golf contracts. Number 10, Capasso, $62,000 for recycling. Number 12, Global Montello, $15,000 for fuel. Number 16, Sprague Operating Resources, $16,000 for fuel. And number 18, the State Comptroller, $55,000 for justice fines. Any questions on the audit?
Yeah, number 13, Healthy,
Sure.
2 snow removals.
$7,780 for snow removal.
Yep.
Yeah, there were, correct. There were 2 instances. The first one was on January 6th, and that was, we got 0.6 inches of snow. 0.6. And the second instance was on January 18th and 19th. We had a little over 3 inches of snow, and we have certified payroll from them. It's within the contract, and I got the snow verifications from an outside independent company that tells us how much snow Orangetown got.
We ought to look at going out to bid again.
We went out to bid, and Eric can confirm that about a year, maybe 2 years ago on this, and unfortunately, Helmke was the only person who bid back on it.
Is the contract such that we pay a certain amount?
It's
per-
0 to
Guaranteed.
0 to 3 inches is a certain amount, 3 to 6 inches is a higher amount, 6 to 9 is higher. You know,
One of the prior supervisors thought that was a good deal. The town used to do the landscaping for the housing authority, and the supervisor insisted on doing the snow removal. That year, we had a hell of a lot of snow, and it was not a smart move.
$100,000,
Not a smart move,
$118,000
you know.
that year.
It's
I
a bargain.
remember it.
We should renegotiate that contract.
Okay.
Any
so I
questions
get a
on the audit?
Any
No.
questions? Motion to adopt the audit? You moved. Tom Divany moved, second. Jerry Vitale, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, so we do have to go into executive session to discuss the proposed acquisition or sale lease of real property in the town. We are not coming out to vote for anything. We do have an adjournment. Mickey Mahoney, Michael Mahoney, from a resident of Pearl River, County Tyrone. He, I don't know, anybody, I mean, his daughter went to school with my kids, but I don't really know him that well. Yeah. Yeah, okay. No, anybody, any additions to the, no? So we are going to executive, we're gonna make a motion to go into executive session?
What are we going to exec session for?
Acquisition, sale, lease of real property when publicity might affect the value. We'll be quick though, because it's late. Okay. Motion? I'll make a motion.
Second.
Okay. I motion, Tom second, all in favor? Aye. Yeah.